All right, welcome back to the Attack the Rack YouTube channel. We are with our pick experts, Peter Hunsberger and Chad Zagar. We are going to do something a little bit different here. We have been talking a lot lately about NFL coaches, and the topic shifted towards who would you want backing you up if you ended up in a brawl. So what we're going to do here is we're going to draft. We're each going to draft 3 NFL coaches. We're going to go snake style draft. We're going to go in. We'll go. I'll go last as the host, and then we'll go alphabetical order. So Chad will go first, then Peter, then I. Snake style draft. We're each going to draft 3 NFL coaches, and then we're going to post the groups of 3 on the Attack the Rack YouTube channel community page, and we will let you guys vote on who you think is the toughest group of 3 coaches that you would want backing you up if you ended up in a brawl. So let's bring on here Peter and Chad. Chad, you kind of were the one that kind of lit the fire on this. Where did this come from?
Oh no, I mean, I brought it up after we finished taping last week, and I think it's probably just the fact being a Lions homer. We just look at Dan Campbell and how big of a guy he is and just a meathead and how it's just cool when you're winning. All the decisions he makes, going for it on fourth down, just being tough. And so I think that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, I think it did. It kind of started with just light conversation, and then we can kind of continue to talk about it throughout the week and texting and things. So it has now turned into a draft here. Peter, what are you looking for in your group of coaches that you would want backing you up in a brawl?
So I think there's a couple factors. First of all, I like Zager's Campbell analogy. I consider him like a high T guy, but like with emotion. He's like an emotional T, high testosterone. So I think he's a good kind of combo. I'm looking for guys that are just tough in terms of like staring you down and having that intimidation factor. I'm also kind of in on some of these creepy guys that you think in a brawl could get kind of weird and like do some stuff that you didn't
Sure.
know they were capable of. So those are my 2 categories. Just to give you a little teaser here, what I'm looking for.
Uh,
Since we brought this up and so we had time to research it, I think one of the things I want to share is we had talked about some of the guys that we thought were, squirrels and little guys and weaklings. I looked all these coaches up. They're all studs. like their backgrounds are just all D1 football or played high school, 3 sports, all state. Just they're all studs in every aspect, really, from an athletic standpoint.
yeah, Chad, I'm very much looking forward to hearing some of this research that you've come up with on some of these guys.
So you want to start in the draft?
Yeah. So what did I say? Chad, you'll go first.
Pete Kurt.
What's that?
Yeah, Chad, Pete, Kurt, right?
Yep. Okay.
So you put me first, which this just ticks me off. I was hoping I would go last.
Okay.
Because
Let's do it. We can change it up. Pete, you go first. I'll go second. Chad, you go last.
all right.
Okay, I like this. First pick in the draft.
Yeah. First pick.
The
Usually you
pick.
guys don't want the first pick. Usually you want the second pick, both of you.
Well, I will say this: if we had drafted 3 weeks ago, this pick wouldn't have been available, and the guy he replaced would have been one of my worst, like least likely to back me in a brawl guy. So Antonio Pierce of the Raiders,
Yep.
he was a bad MF back in the day playing for the Giants. You got guys in there smoking cigars after a win. He's just kind of he's the man.
Yeah, I definitely had him on my board. I had him a little bit further down, just because he's kind of new to the head coaching realm. He's an interim guy, but definitely a good choice, Peter. phenomenal.
Nice measurements. 6'1", 238.
Oh,
He's gonna bring it.
In 1 or 2 Super Bowls.
I don't know. Middle linebacker for the Redskins and the Giants. He's our age. He's 45 years old. He does not look 45 years old. Or we look way older.
Yeah.
One or the other.
I'm pretty sure he had at least 1 Super Bowl with the Giants.
I can't remember when he switched teams.
Yeah. All right. So Antonio Pierce is off the board. Congratulations, Coach Pierce, on being the #1 pick in the NFL coaches. Who would you want backing you up if you were in a brawl? I guess I'm going second, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to say, but I'm gonna take Dan Campbell off the board right now. I like him because I think he is a hard-nosed, tough son of a gun, right? So I think that if antagonized, right, if he was my buddy and he saw that I was in trouble, I think that he would definitely step right in and help, right? So if I'm being attacked, he'd come in there and he'd save the day. I kind of, I really don't think he's necessarily someone, though, like maybe some of these guys that we're going to have on our list that are out there maybe trying to look for a fight. I think we've seen a softer side of Coach Dan Campbell. And
Cry when he beats you up.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy, and that's why, like, I feel like I could see him stepping right in to support me, if I was one of his guys. He's that kind of coach that just loves the guys that play for him, has their backs. He's a relationship builder, and yes, he's a tough son of a gun, and that's one reason that I would want him on my squad. But I also think that he's someone that would deeply care for everyone on our squad and would step right in and save the day if necessary.
I think that's a great pick, Curt. I had him #2. He was #2 on my board.
Okay.
So I feel like this is a sneaky pick I'm going to get away with right here. I'm going to get my #1 guy.
Oh, and
you're going to be surprised.
You're now on the board. Who do you got?
Sean McDermott.
Okay. Well,
Bill's bias.
He played football, played safety at William and Mary with Mike Tomlin.
Yep.
And he was a national champion prep wrestler 2 times. And you don't mess with a wrestler.
True.
They're weird, man.
I've heard him on podcasts where they kind of talk about this topic of, Campbell and the guy like Pierce. And do you think you could take him? And he isn't real aggressive saying he could, but you can tell based on his response, he knows he could. He knows if he got in the ring with him, he'd take him down. There's no question.
In 40 seconds.
No, he to me, he was #2 on mine.
Okay, so did you know the wrestling history?
No, I didn't. I just look at the guy and think he looks like he's a brawler.
He's got a bit of testosterone there.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Like he's not like big and tough like, Vrabel or Campbell, but he's got that look in his eye. Like you don't want to mess with him.
If you want my second pick, you just named him, Curt.
Oh, Vrabel.
It's basically Dan Campbell's twin brother, right? Yeah. Mike Vrabel.
Yeah. Yep.
He's a little more refined than Dan Campbell, but he's right there.
Not much. I mean, I think they both go through about probably a 10 a day at least of chew. It's in 24/7.
Yeah.
I like the video of the draft. I can't remember. It might have been the COVID draft when Vrabel's home, in this beautiful house and his family's there in and out of the room and just huge chaws in the whole time, just picking his guys.
So I remember I was going to say, you're talking about McDermott being a wrestler. into wrestling, have you guys seen the documentary about the tickling, the sport of tickling, like tickling competitions?
No,
Oh.
haven't seen it.
It's good. It's the creepiest stuff you'll ever watch, but it's a great doc.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Better than the slap contests that are kind of going viral.
Yeah. All right. So Chad, you went with Vrabel for your second pick. My now top three are off the board. I had Campbell number one. I had McDermott number two. I had Vrabel number three.
Remember that, voters. I got two of Curt's top three and two of my top three.
Yeah. Maybe I should keep my mouth shut. All right. So it is now my pick again. This guy was on the top of the world last year. I believe he was maybe even named Coach of the Year. And now this year, he is on the verge of possibly being fired. New York Giants, Brian Daboll.
Wow. I had him way down there.
Really? I think he is a just ball of fire. And I think if you get him in a brawl, he's going in and he is not going to stop.
Oh boy.
You
Do you
like
know he played safety in college?
Really? Did he really? So you probably can hit.
He's gained some pounds since then.
I bet. Yeah. Well, I like that. I'll take a safety on my squad.
That's true. That is true. Ronnie Lott, one of the toughest guys ever, right?
Yes.
Amputated fingers to keep playing.
Rod Woodson.
Daboll. Wow, I had him way down there. That was one of my fun facts, Curt, that I was going to share, is the fact that you look at him, you're thinking, okay, probably a really good offensive lineman in high school, maybe at a college, small college. Nope, safety.
Yeah. Well, how tall is he? Because he'd probably be too short to play on the line, I'm guessing.
Oh, no. I don't know.
But I mean, safeties usually have a little bit of height to them too, right? DBs are a little bit shorter.
5'10".
Okay. What level did he play at?
University of Rochester.
Oh, like Rochester, Michigan, or New York?
I'm thinking it's New York. He's a New York guy.
Okay. All right. All right. So yeah. So I got my second pick, Brian Daboll, New York Giants. So I've got Dan Campbell, Brian Daboll. Chad has Sean McDermott and
Mike
Vrabel. And Peter so far is a lone teammate of Antonio Pierce. Pete, you are now on the clock, and you are going to round out your roster right here with your two picks.
All right, so I'm gonna stick with the linebacking trend here, and I'm gonna go D'Amico Ryan. He's a newish coach, and I think he was he the Niners DC for some number of years, but he's only 39. He was a beast when he played for the Texans, a little bit for the Eagles. And he just seems like a guy who just walks in and commands a lot of respect. And I don't know. I mean, it just seems like that guy has his shit together. I want him backing me. Like he would add a little bit of oomph to the squad here.
Sure. No, good. That's a very good pick. And then Peter, the final person on your roster.
All right, so I had a couple of good, tough middle linebacker guys, confident. I needed someone who's just kind of a little off or a little weird. But I didn't want to go really weird and also really weak. Like I wanted someone who's like weird but could still at least like stand his ground. So that's where Mike McDaniel left on my list. So I went Todd Bowles. Like I feel like that dude would just kind of stare you down. He seems like a guy in a movie that's just like standing in the corner, just staring at you, doesn't move a muscle, and you're just like, you get more and more scared of him as you watch him.
I would agree on the creepy. I would agree on creepy there, Peter. Yeah.
You know how old he is?
Bulls?
Yeah.
Like 49?
59.
Great
He
shape.
looks so good.
He's
Yeah.
fit, man.
Well, Chad, why don't you what do you got for us on D'Amico Ryan and maybe a little bit more on Todd Bowles?
Well, I mean, I think, I had D'Amico highly ranked as well. I think Pete getting D'Amico and Antonio Pierce, just a couple of the younger coaches, total studs. D'Amico, outside linebacker for Bama, played for the Texans, Eagles, rookie of the year, 2 Pro Bowls, total stud. So great pick there, Pete. Todd Bowles, I had him ranked up there too. The fact I looked him up and he played, I think he played safety in the NFL. He was with the Redskins and the Niners. 59 years old. That shocked me when I looked it up because I thought he was, I would have guessed something similar to you, Pete, just much younger.
Yeah, I don't think he looks a day over what'd you say, Pete? 49, right? I don't think he looks a day over 49. All right, so Pete rounds out his roster. Antonio Pierce, D'Amico Ryan, and Todd Bowles. Very solid squad, Peter. Anything you want to say to the listeners, watchers, viewers about your squad as a whole that will maybe increase your votes?
Just picture us standing together. Well, picture us with me behind them so you can't see me. And you'll see a confident, strong, tough group of guys.
All right. Well said. Very well said. All right. So now we are back to me, right, for my third and final pick. I
hope you go off the rankings here again.
What's that?
I hope you go off the rankings again here. My rankings.
No, I got 5 guys left on my list, and I'm actually going to bypass number 1 and number 2 that are left on my board. And I'm going to go the third person after evaluating this a little bit more and thinking about this a little bit more as we've been doing this. My third and final roster spot is going to go to Mr. John Harbaugh. Now, why would I go with John Harbaugh? Because he is the brother of Jim Harbaugh, and he's got to have a little bit of Jim Harbaugh in him. If I'm going to battle right now with anybody, anywhere, I'm taking Jim Harbaugh with me. I can't take Jim Harbaugh. He's a college coach. I can take John Harbaugh, his brother. They come from the same loins, same dad, just a football guy. His brother Jim coaching America's team.
It's got to be America's team. It's got to be America's team.
So I'm going with John Harbaugh because he's got that Harbaugh in him.
I like to call you out for pandering, but I like the pick. Wouldn't it be cool if Harbaugh, since they're playing tonight, if John just flew and was like, all right, I'm going to be on the sidelines. I'm stepping in. I'm coaching against Maryland this weekend.
Yeah. Jack, John, and Jay all can coach.
Right. They've all got the khakis like ready. They're like pleated and ready to go.
What was the other quote? I haven't seen the actual clip, but there's another, obviously Harbaugh's, clip of his press conference when he said that Michigan's now America's team. That kind of went viral. He had another one too, where someone was asking him about
his cold,
and he said he'd be all right. He'd do some push-ups and eat an apple.
He was the iron wall versus the virus that was attacking him. He was just going to do some extra push-ups and eat an apple. I listened to PMT this week, and they had, or last week, I think you listened to it too, Curt. They had the center for Stanford that played under Harbaugh, and he talked about Jim and how crazy he was. And they asked him, did Jim ever get out there, and was he playing in the drills and acting like he was the quarterback? And he's like, no. He loved Andrew. Like, whatever Andrew Luck did, like, he just loved that guy. But he told the story of they would practice the center QB exchange over and over and over. And Harbaugh got underneath the center like he was a mechanic, looking to make sure that Andrew's knuckle was in the perfect spot on the center's ass to take the hut.
Yeah, it had to be the fourth knuckle, right? Wasn't that it was it had to be
Right.
the fourth knuckle?
Right in there.
Yeah.
I gained a new level of respect for Harbaugh this past week because I don't know if he had a quote about this, but like somehow these old videos came back to the surface. I guess he's a big Judge Judy fan, and he like references her. And there's this video of him. There's an episode of Judge Judy that he attended with his dad or something, and they show Judge Judy like cracking some joke, and they go to like the little crowd on the side, and both the Harbaughs are like laughing hysterically. Go, I'll send you guys the link. It is
Yes, please do. Chad, do you have any thoughts on my John Harbaugh pick? And did you
He
do?
was on
he
my-
even
he was
was
on
he
my
even on your list to get?
He was definitely on my list. I put him number 10 on my list.
So you did do some research on him.
It's a sentimental pick. I like it. You know, I put family strength in my notes as, you know, a point, and you hit on that when you picked him. So no, I think it's a great pick. So I'm last here.
Yep.
And I'm going to skip over my next guy like you did. I don't know why I'm going to. My next guy would be Robert Salah, 44 years old, born in Flint, played tight end at Northern Michigan. Just seems like a badass. But kind of turned me off this past weekend when I watched the game, and Robert was actually watching the game with me, and his beard. I had him ranked 6th, and then we saw his beard, and Robert made some comments on his beard. Like, is that a fake beard? Is that a dyed beard? What's going on with the beard? And it got in my head, and I'm like, I can't draft this guy. So I'm going to go one notch down, and I'm going to go old here. Older than Todd Bowles. Ron Rivera, 61 years old. Just an absolute stud. Played linebacker for the Bears from 84 to 92. Just a quiet guy. I don't think he's going to pick a fight, but I think if anybody picked a fight with him, it's not going to end well for them. So I've got Vrabel and Rivera just scaring anybody from a fight. If somebody's looking for a fight, they might look at McDermott and think, look at this guy. I can take this guy. And it's over before they even know it. So I like my squad.
No, you know how I said I skipped over my top 2 that were left on my board to take Harbaugh. Number 1 on my board that was remaining was also Ron Rivera.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't he was part of the 85 Bears defense, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the middle linebacker on that team.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Did you say that already? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, how could you go wrong with anyone on that 85 Bears defense?
Who else did you guys think about? Like, who else was on the short list that you might have picked?
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, Salah was definitely there for me. Like Mike Tomlin, I thought would have gone.
I had him on there.
Again, I was like, if I had to get deep into like the sleeper picks, I think Mike McDaniel would pop up for me, just being kind of like
Weird.
Like he could just flip in a second and just go ape on somebody. I'm trying to think of anyone else.
Well, can I just here's why I stayed away from McDaniel, a couple other guys. I did have McVay on my list, but he was last. You know,
McVay was last. You ranked him.
I
So
had
you
him
might have
number
picked.
9.
Yeah.
Number 9.
He's young.
Yeah.
He's still 37 years old.
Yeah, here's why I stayed away from McDaniel. Here's what I picture McDaniel. Being that kid in high school who is always kind of the nerdy kid, but you know, no one really messes with him, but he talks a lot of trash. He's always picking at people, making fun of people. And then one day says the wrong thing to the wrong person and gets his ass whooped. That's who he reminds me of.
So my notes for McVay, I did not have him
No,
ranked.
I was talking about McDermott. That's what, or not McDermott. McDaniel. Yeah.
Oh, McDaniel. Okay, yeah, because he's a smart ass. I thought you were talking McVay because you said McVay.
No, I mean, I kind of thought maybe a little bit McVay in that too, but I think McVay's probably tough enough where he can defend himself. Like I look at McDaniel as the kind of guy that he's not going to beat up anybody, but he's still just talking, and then he just says something to the wrong person and gets
Right.
out. I
Like,
think that McVay kind of is like that, but at the same token, I think McVay could at least defend himself.
McVay, my
Yeah.
notes for McVay were he reminds me of Tweeter from Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
He was a wide receiver too. McVay was a wide receiver at Miami U.
oh, he went to Miami U. That's hilarious.
So guys, one of the things, like looking these up, I think when we had talked about doing this, I think we thought there were some guys that, were, not impressive physically, like McDaniel, or I think we talked about Zach Taylor, Brandon Staley, the guy for the Cardinals, Gannon.
Yeah.
Gannon, LaFleur.
I researched all these guys. I mean, they all were multi-sport studs, growing up. They all played in college. They're all, they all accomplished a bunch of stuff. So I don't know if there's any other names out there that you want to hear.
Well, Pete, I'll let you go in a second here. We've talked about everybody that is on my list that I didn't get an opportunity to take, except for one name. So I did have Ron Rivera on my list. I did have Antonio Pierce, and I did have Sean McVay. But there's one other name on this list that we haven't talked about. And his name is Bill Belichick. I think he's probably got that old man strength. He's just chilling. He's chilling, quiet.
Old man smell, not an old man strength.
So there's 3 coaches in their 60s. No, 4 coaches in their 60s. McCarthy, McCarthy's 60 for the Cowboys. Andy Reid is 65, Belichick 71, and Pete Carroll 72. So if we just went 70 and up, if you're going to throw Belichick and Carroll in the ring to the 270 plus guys, I don't think I'd take Belichick.
I'm putting Pete Carroll in the same basket with McDaniel, as like he is the kind of guy that's just picking, and then says the wrong thing to the wrong dude and flat out knocked out.
Pete Carroll's got like orthopedic shoes on, and like he's not doing it for me. Okay, so I definitely had Rivera much further down my list. I feel like with him,
Cool.
Like the glasses always get me. It just feels like he's this old like guy that wears cowboy boots and goes and sit in the diner on a Friday, doesn't talk to anyone, hasn't talked to his wife in like 4 years. Like he just seems like kind of lame. Like he's just gonna stand there. I don't know.
I think all 3 of us could try to take Ron Rivera, and we wouldn't be able to. He wouldn't even feel us.
He does look like he has these like probably really meaty hands, and he would just grab your hand and just squeeze it, and he wouldn't say anything. He'd just sit there all stoic and just like squeezing it.
I don't know where we could punch him to make him hurt. I don't think there's a spot.
I don't think he'd feel it. He'd probably come up and he'd find, he knows where like the pressure points are, and he'd just like press on that.
I think he'd just look at us and we would walk away.
Chad, anyone else though that you had on your list that you didn't mention yet?
We talked Salah, Tomlin. Yeah. I had the 2. I think I'm kind of biased from last week's game, but Frank Reich. I think just seeing him next to God, who was the female like sideline reporter? Her name. He just towered over her. He made her look like she was just miniature. So Frank Reich was on my list.
Wow.
I'm glad we didn't get to that point. Had we done a four-man draft, I probably would have picked Frank Reich or Doug Peterson. I think for Doug Peterson, just the big head, the big jaw.
Yeah.
Like imagine hitting that. I don't think he's gonna feel it. His head is so big.
I think Reich looks like he's like an alcoholic who's like he hasn't like he's kicked out of his house and he's just like he just doesn't seem confident right now. I think he has the size, but I think you could just like he's so depressed. You have his head down. You walk up and just like cold cock him.
Sometimes he might have the anger just sitting in him, waiting to unleash though. With that
like alcoholic rage. All right, so can we talk about like the guys we were fading the entire time, like never touching?
I was fading Dayball.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Why? Well, I mean, don't you see him how animated and feisty he is on the sidelines? That doesn't attract you to him at all.
I don't. He looks like a doughboy.
That's McCarthy.
McCarthy. Okay, 60 years old. He played tight end at an NAIA school. He was captain of his team, and they finished runner-up for the national championship. So I gained a little respect for McCarthy too.
Okay.
But yeah, he looks like a doughboy.
He just his body language isn't good. Like body language matters. If you're walking up to a brawl and you see Mike McCarthy with a big play sheet and a baggy jacket, like head down, like his body language doesn't support a good brawl support for me.
Oh, no. When they were on Hard Knocks and some of the looks, you kind of see a little bit of behind the scenes and the shirts he's wearing. It's not good for him right now. He's not in good physical shape.
No, you gotta like present yourself well. All right, so the other guy, well, one of the main guys I was fading just because I hate him from a real coach perspective for fantasy, Arthur Smith just bothers me. Like I don't know if you've heard, but he is like heir to some company wealth and it's just like multiple, he grew up like millionaire basically.
His dad founded FedEx.
Yeah, okay, that's what it was. Yeah, so probably billionaire. And he just speaks with this like sense, like he knows what he's doing is like wrong, but he's gonna double down. If you question, he's gonna like double down on it. And I just think he just would get his ass beat like immediately.
Not a good chin on him. He does not have a good fighting chin. But played for UNC. Played on the offensive line at UNC.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. He's a oaf.
I think the weakest guy for me, I don't know, one more guy. I mean, okay, well, I got to say something about Andy Reid first. Like, when researching this, I just think of the Andy Reid video, the punt, pass, kick championship, when he's the same age as all these kids out there, and he's like three times their size.
So if you were a middle school kid, you'd want that Andy Reid on your squad.
Right. The weakest to me would probably be Sean Payton. So when you describe guys that are just like talking shit and can't back it up and are going to get crushed, that I think is Sean Payton. But he was an NFL quarterback. There isn't one guy that doesn't have an impressive resume.
Well, talk to me then about here's probably who I would put last on the list. I would put all this like all these young guys. I would put them all towards the bottom. And the bottom of the bottom, I think, would be Brandon Staley. I mean, he's super young, he looks like he's super tiny, super weak. What's his background?
He'll be 2 years at Dayton University. D1 quarterback.
Oh, that's good.
40 years old.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's insane.
What about Eberflus?
Yeah.
Eberflus, 53 years old, linebacker at Toledo University.
Did you say LaFleur yet?
LaFleur, 44 years old, looks great for 44. All-time leader in passing yards for San Diego Valley State University as a quarterback. One that probably surprised me the most was Jonathan Gannon, because I've seen the clips of him when he got announced or after he got announced in his first meetings with, the Cardinals players, and I can't remember what player he was like dabbing up, but it was just so awkward. Just like, oh my God, has this guy ever been in a locker room with football players and thinking he's just an analytics dork? Played DB at Louisville, all-state basketball and football as a high schooler.
Just real.
One last one I'd like to get some info on is Zach Taylor, another younger guy.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was a chump too. Zach Taylor, 6'2", 210, backup QB at Wake Forest, and then he transferred to Nebraska and played quarterback at Nebraska.
Really? How old did you say he was?
40.
How do I not know that? Was he a starter at Nebraska?
He started at Nebraska, yeah.
I don't remember that. Interesting. Dude, great stuff, Chad. Great stuff. So let's go over the rosters one more time, and then I'll let everyone know where they can vote. So Peter has Antonio Pierce, D'Amico Ryans, Todd Bowles. I have Dan Campbell, Brian Dable, John Harbaugh. And Chad has Sean McDermott, Mike Vrabel, and Ron Rivera. So what we want you guys to do, go to the Attack the Rack YouTube channel, click on the community tab, and then you can, right there, you can vote for which group of three you would want most backing you up in a dark alley brawl or a backyard brawl. Any final thoughts, guys? Any final words? Anything you want to say about your squad to try to get some votes?
I think my squad speaks for itself.
Agreed. Same here.
Jinx.
All right. Well, hey, Attack the Rack viewers, thank you again for watching and supporting the Attack the Rack YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel itself. That is a free way to support what we are doing here. And tune in to the next episode of the NFL Pick Show featuring Chad and Peter. We will see you there.